Hello and welcome to my digital portfolio presentation for Dublin Business School's Higher Diploma in Science and Digital Marketing. My name is Fiona Guthrie and my topic is how does food photography impact consumer behaviour? So on my homepage here I have my menu tabs and then the last part is obviously the references and reflection. Moving down, my cover image is a bright colourful image to draw the reader's attention in. And here I reiterate the topic of choice. So for my introduction, which flows next, I just briefly outline the sort of state of food photography at the moment and how COVID-19 has obviously resulted in more people spending time online, and we can assume with this comes more viewing of food images. So I then outline that this portfolio is an exploration in food photography, the impact it can have on consumers, and how photo quality can affect consumption or purchasing decisions, and just why this topic is important to me. So here I also give the option for the reader to go straight to the About Me section, or they can keep scrolling down the homepage, where they will be met with this quote by Apicius, "We eat first with our eyes," and another striking food image. I then felt I wanted to include a brief history of food photography, just to give the reader some background on the subject. So the slideshow also brings an interactive element here, and starting with 1845, when some of the first food photos were being taken, and this was only 6 years after the birth of cameras themselves. And we can see here as it's still life, it's obviously influenced by the paintings of the time. The classic still life fruit basket. So then we move into colour photography, and it's interesting to note here that this image of a boiled egg is not uncommon to things we would see today on Instagram, and it's that display of mess in specific moments. So then carrying through the eras, in the 1930s colour advertising began to emerge, and the image here is on 1943. So the date at the top correlates with when the image was taken. So moving on into the 50s was when the development of the electric flash began. And then moving on into the 70s and 80s with the retro themes, carrying on up to the 2000s when digital photography began. So I then wanted to just explain the origins of the term food porn, as it's something we see a lot these days on social media, #foodporn. So it was interesting to find out that it actually dates back to the 70s and 80s, but it wasn't really used in the same way that we use it today, which would be kind of to describe the picture that I've chosen here of the oozing burger. So at the end of the homepage, I have the buttons option to either go back to the top or on to the next page, which is Food Photography Now. So where is food photography now? And it's a look into some current industry experts and award-winning food photography. So I start with an image of Andrew Scrivani's current work, and just a brief description of him. He's a world-renowned food photographer and he's well known for his editorial work in the New York Times. I then have taken research from a podcast that I listened to, which was called Restaurant Strategy, and it was an interview with Scrivani. And it was very interesting just to find out his views, as he's been in the business for a very long time and has seen how social media has changed things and things like that. So then I wanted to delve into one of the awards that's probably the most prestigious food photography, because it's only on food photography and there's over 20 different categories. And I did note that was quite interesting that it's all the images that won this year and honourable mention, they all have dark backgrounds, which is quite different to what we see on social media, where white and light neutral backgrounds are really prevailing. So the winning image of 2021 was Mulled Pears by Harriet Harcourt, and she's actually an Australian photographer. And second place was This Sweet Fruit. And the third place of 2021 was the grilled cheese sandwich, which was very interesting, as in the interview with Andrew Scrivani, he had noted that this image of the cheese being pulled, whether it be a pizza or in a sandwich, was played out in his opinion. So here we have just a few more of the honourable mention winners, and then I move on to some current photography trends in the food industry that I just got from another podcast called Eat, Capture, Share by Kimberly Espinel, who's a very successful food photographer and author of several food photography books. So from here again I have the button options of going back to the top or onto the impact of food photography. So the impact of food photography is where I bring in my literary review, citing scientific studies and articles in journals around the topic. And the use of the photo of the pizza here was to try and evoke hunger from the reader, as this is obviously the basis of this section. It's kind of like, will they eat something after reading this? And I had an idea, like part of a future study, it would be good to involve a questionnaire kind of on the website, on the portfolio, to gather information of this. And the choice of pizza was just because usually pizza appeals to everybody, and I wanted to make sure it didn't contain meat in case there were any vegetarians. So for my literary review, I've included several studies, notably one which was just from last year, and that was a look into the effects of food photography on healthy eating behaviours. And what a lot of these studies in the past have discovered is that there really is a biological response when we see food images, and the hormone ghrelin is triggered, which is also known as the hunger hormone. So as well as that aspect of it, it's also the fact, does quality of photo make a difference? And I included my survey here, which agreed with that theory. And then another study from 2017 was also noting that even photo angle plays a part in how food photography is perceived. So again, here we can go straight to the consumer survey. So for my survey, I managed to receive 40 participants, and 24 were female, 16 male. The first 2 questions were just establishing the demographics, and then there were 8 questions as follows. I didn't want to make the survey too long because I know that people don't have that much time on their hands and can be put off by longer surveys. So the first question was, do you photograph food when you're eating out? And I wasn't surprised here that the majority of 24 said no, they don't. However, 14 said yes, and 2 would say they would photograph the food they cook themselves. A further larger majority was for the question, do you prefer to see photos of an establishment's food before eating there, with 25 saying yes and 15 saying no. And then an overwhelming majority said that if the photos were unattractive, it would put them off eating there, with 37 yeses and 3 nos. So the next question was trying to establish how long, do people spend time looking at food photos on social media? And 14 said yes regularly, 15 occasionally, and 11 no's. So then the next question was, if they do look at these photos, does it make them feel hungry? So there was 30 yeses and 4 no's. Obviously, some people that don't look at photos skip that question. And then the next question was, do you think food quality is important when it comes to food just purchasing decisions, which was interesting. There was an option of no, but out of the 40 participants, 20 said somewhat and 20 said yes, extremely, which just goes to show it really does impact consumer behaviour. The next question involved 2 photographs, just which would you deem to be of better quality, and obviously the majority chose image 1, as clearly it is. And then just again on the same 2 photos, which is more appealing to you and has the potential to make you feel hungry? Again, image 1 was obviously chosen. So just some findings, slight summary here, and then move into a few recommendations just to expand this. The questionnaire would be more advisable, and maybe target a specific demographic with it would be another recommendation. So here we can go back to the top, and then you can move into the quick about me section. The reason that the about me section is here is because of the way that it flows into the personal use and experience, which we'll move on to next. So here we are. So for personal use and experience, I started my own business last year, and obviously it's a food business, as you can see, and that's just why food photography has really kind of became more important to me, and it's something that I'm trying to improve on myself. And these are just some images of our offerings. So, and I'm just explaining here how the posts that we've had on social media that have been of our food itself are always the more successful posts. And like I say here, there have been occasions when customers have said something, we saw your Instagram and your food looked good, so we had to try it. I mean, I'm very small at the moment, just starting out, but I do think that this has helped a lot. So I then have just a short video just explaining why food photography. So from here, that's kind of the end of the portfolio as a section. So then I have the references, all with working hyperlinks to everything that's referenced, and then into the reflection. So overall, from the experience, I believe I've learned how to construct a contemporary digital portfolio, and while doing this, I've also developed my research skills. I would now feel very comfortable using Wix and creating further works on the platform. And I do believe that I've presented my findings appropriately and have achieved what I set out to do. Basically, that would bring this presentation to a close, and I'd just like to thank you very much for listening.